Hello everyone and welcome! Before we dive into the big Shurima event, we still have to clear a few more puzzle pieces around Taliyah. So without further ado, let's get on it! Taliyah was born in the rocky foothills bordering Icathia. She spent her childhood herding goats with her tribe of nomadic weavers. Where most outsiders see Shurima as a barren waste, her family raised her to be a true daughter of Shurima and see beauty in the rich colors of the land. Taliyah was always fascinated by the stones beneath the dunes. When she was still a child, she collected pretty stones as her people followed the seasonal waters. As she grew older, the earth itself seemed drawn to her, arcing and twisting to follow her tracks through the sand. One day, Taliyah wandered from the caravan in search for a lost goatling she was supposed to take care of. Determined not to disappoint her father, who was the master shepherd and headman of the tribe, she tracked the young animal into the night. She found the beast high up on a rock wall. It climbed up on its own, but it couldn't get down. The sandstone called to her, urging to pull handholds from the sheer wall. Taliyah laid her palms against the rock, determined to rescue the scared animal. In that moment, the elemental power overwhelmed her. As soon as she opened herself to the magic, it poured over her, the stone leaping to her fingertips, bringing both the canyon wall and the beast down on top of her. The next morning, Taliyah's panicked father followed the goatling's tracks. He fell to his knees when he found his daughter unconscious, covered loosely in a blanket of woven stone. Grief-stricken, he returned to the tribe with Taliyah. 2 days later, the girl awoke from fevered dreams in the tent of Babajan, the tribe's grandmother. Taliyah began to tell the wise woman and her parents of the night in the canyon, of the rock that called to her. Babajan consoled the family, telling them that the patterns of rock were evidence the Great Weaver, the desert tribe's mythical protector, watched over the girl. In that moment, Taliyah saw her parents worrying and decided to conceal what really happened that night. That she, not the Great Weaver, had pulled at the desert stone. When children in Taliyah's tribe were old enough, they performed a dance under the face of the full moon. The dance celebrated the children's talents and demonstrated the gifts they would give to the tribe as adults. This was the start to their path to true learning, as those children then become apprenticed to their teachers. Taliyah continued to hide her growing power, believing the secret she carried was a danger and not a blessing. She watched as the children around her spun wool to keep the tribe warm on cold desert nights. They all had such a simple talent to master, only she was tormented by the power she felt stirring within. The time finally came for Taliyah's dance beneath the full moon. While she was talented enough to be a capable shepherd like her father, or a pattern mistress like her mother, the young girl dreaded what her dance would truly reveal. As Taliyah took place on the sand, the tools of her people, the shepherd's crook, the spindle, and the loom surrounded her. She tried to concentrate on the task at hand, but it was the distant rocks, the layered colors of the land that called to her. Taliyah closed her eyes and danced. Overwhelmed by the power flowing through her, she began to spin not the thread, but the very earth beneath her feet. Startled cries from Taliyah's tribe broke her out of the spell. A huge sharp rock was now floating in the air, covering the moonlight. Taliyah looked at the shocked faces of the people who surrounded her. Her will over the stone broke and it crashed down. Taliyah's mother ran to her only daughter to protect her from the falling rock. When the dust finally settled, Taliyah saw the destruction she had caused, the alarm on the faces of her tribe. But it was the small cut across her mother's face that justified Taliyah's fear. Though the cut was minor, Taliyah knew in that moment that she was a threat to the people she loved the most in the world. She ran into the night so weighed down by despair that the ground trembled beneath her feet. It was her father who found her again in the desert. As they sat in the light of the rising sun, Taliyah confessed her secret in choked sobs. In return, he did the only thing a parent could do. He hugged his daughter tightly. He told her that she couldn't run away from her power, that she must complete her dance and see where her path would take her. Turning her back on the Great Weaver's gift was the only danger that could truly break his and her mother's heart. Taliyah returned with her father to the tribe. She entered the dancer's circle with her eyes open. This time she wove a new ribbon of stone, each color and texture a memory of the people surrounding her. When it was over, the whole tribe sat breathless. Taliyah waited nervously. It was time for one of her people to stand as her teacher and claim the student. She heard the gravel shift as her father stood. Next to him, her mother stood. Babajan and the dye mistress and the master spinner stood. In a moment, the whole tribe was on its feet. All of them would stand with the girl who could weave stone. Taliyah looked at each of them. She knew that a power like hers had not been seen in generations, perhaps longer. They stood with her now, their love and trust surrounding her. As much as she loved these people, she did not see the one who could show her how to control the elemental magic that coursed within her. She knew that to stay with her tribe means risking their lives. Though it pained them all, Taliyah said farewell to her parents and her people and set off alone into the world. Naturally, she journeyed west toward the distant peak of Targon. However, at the northern edge of Shurima, it was those who marched beneath the banner of Noxus who discovered her power first. In Noxus, magic like hers was celebrated. At least that's what they told her. They also promised her a teacher. The land had risen Taliyah to be trusting, so she was unprepared for the smooth promises and practiced smiles of the Noxian soldiers. Soon, the desert girl found herself inside the great iron gates that marked the Empire's claim over a conquered land. The crush of people and the layers of politics within the capital city were claustrophobic to a girl from the open desert. Taliyah was paraded through the tiers of Noxian magical society. Many took interest in her power and its potential. But it was a fallen captain who swore to take her to a wild place across the sea, a place where she could test her abilities without fear. She accepted the young officer's offer and crossed the sea to Ionia. However, it was made clear as the ship dropped the anchor that she was intended as a glorified weapon for a man desperate to regain his place at the highest ranks of the Noxian navy. At the dawn, the captain gave her a choice: bury sleeping people in their homes or be discarded. This was not the lesson she had come so far to learn, so Taliyah refused, and the captain threw her overboard to drown. This is where the events of The Bird and the Branch begin. If you have not seen or read the story, stop the video and do it now. The rest of this video will continue the story.
follow this path until the end.
After a long travel, Taliyah was finally back in Shurima. She was outrunning a sandstorm when she first noticed the water. In the beginning, it was faint. Just a cool dampness she felt as she lifted the stones from beneath the sand. As she drew closer to old Shurima, wet streaks dripped from each new stone as if they were weeping. When she was close enough to be covered by the shadow of the great sun disk, water from underground began to pour off the stones she rode like little rivers. And when she finally arrived at the gates, Taliyah heard deafening waters rushing along the bedrock. The oasis of the dawn, the mother of life, roared beneath the sands. The people of her tribe had followed the seasonal waters for hundreds of years. The best chance of finding her family was to follow the waters. And to Taliyah's fortune, the waters in Shurima now flowed from a single source as it had ages ago. The tragic remains of the capital city had always been avoided, almost as much as the Great Sigh and the deadly creatures that hunted there. Even thieves knew to keep their distance from the city, until now. Taliyah brought the rock she rode to a sudden halt, nearly stumbling from it as she pushed the stone quickly below the desert's surface. The woman from Vekura had been right. This place was no longer a forgotten ruin haunted by ghosts and sand. There was a big camp full of merchants outside the gates of Shurima. Not knowing who these people were, she decided it might be best to reveal no more than was necessary. It seemed like there was a tribal representation of all four corners of her homeland. But as Taliyah searched their faces, she saw none that were familiar. The people here were torn. They argued about merits of staying in their temporary camps versus seeking shelter within the city. Some worried that just as it rose, the city would fall again, burying any caught inside. Some saw the storm that bristled with unnatural lightning and thought their chances were better within the walls, even if the walls had once been lost to the sand for generations. All of them moved quickly at the sight of the storm. Taliyah herself had won the race with the tempest, but it wouldn't be long before the sand lashed against the gates. "Now's the time to decide," a woman called out to her. "Are you going in or leaving, girl?" Taliyah turned to face the woman. She was Shuriman, but other than that, unknown to her. "I am looking for my family." Taliyah gestured to her tunic. "They are weavers. The Hawk Father promised protection to all within the walls," the woman said. "The Hawk Father?" The woman looked at Taliyah's concerned face and smiled, taking her hand. "Azir has returned to us ascended. The oasis of dawn flows again. A new day has come for Shurima." Taliyah looked around at the people. It was true. They were hesitant to move far into the massive capital, but the fear that worried their faces was more for the unnatural storm than the capital and its returned emperor. The woman continued. "There were weavers here this morning. They decided to wait out the storm inside." Then she pointed at the rushing mass of people. "We must hurry, they are closing the gates." Taliyah found herself being pulled toward one of the capital's great gates by the woman. In the distance, a strange and threatening bolt of lightning cracked at the edge of the whirlwind. As the gates finally shut down behind them, the immensity of Shurima's old capital now stretched before them. The crowd hugged the thick protective walls, unsure where to go. It was as if they sensed the empty streets belonged to someone else. "I am sure your people are somewhere within the city. Most have kept close to the gates. Few are brave enough to go further than that. I hope you find what you're looking for." The woman let go of Taliyah's hand and smiled. "Water and shade to you, sister. Water and shade to you." Taliyah's voice dropped off as the woman disappeared into the milling crowd. Taliyah felt there was something wrong with this place. She reached out to the thick wall to steady herself. She gasped. The stone throbbed beneath the flat of her palm. Pain. A terrible blinding pain overwhelmed her. Tens of thousands of voices were etched into the rock. The fear and torment of their last moments, before their lives were cut down and their shadows were seared into the stone, screamed in her mind. Taliyah tore her hand from the stone wall and stumbled. She came to a realization. This wasn't a city reborn. It was an empty tomb risen from the sand. The last time Azir had made promises to the people of Shurima, it had cost them their lives. "I must find my family," she whispered. And that is where Taliyah's part of this story ends. The next time we talk about Shurima, we will talk about the big event that just happened. So for now, that's it for this video. As always, if you have enjoyed it, feel free to rate the video or comment down below. For more social updates, follow me on Twitter and Facebook. And for more free talking and gameplay, follow me on Twitch. And with that, thank you so much for all of your support, especially now during the exams. And as always, thank you come again. So during the next week, or actually this week, depends on when I release the video, I think it is this week, I have my last 2 exams, and after that I'm free so I can make all the videos I want again. And I actually have a lot of ideas and a lot of, things that I want to make videos about. And on top of that, there may be a giveaway either next week or in 14 days, one of those. Probably in 14 days, because I'm expecting a package, and part of that package I will probably give away. So stay tuned for that. So see you in the next one.